I'm going to ask you all a question. I want you to answer it honestly and from your very soul. Does it matter if only middle-aged, cis, white men are writing our drama and comedy? Really?
It's a quite easy answer. Yes. Of course it matters. It matters. It's not just about representation. It matters that we get all sorts of voices on screen. There's lots of brilliant people who come from different places. They should all be heard. The best scripts should get on television. And I refuse to believe that those are only written by that group of people.
Yes. Yeah, what she said.
It's quite straightforward, really.
Yeah. Oh, we've another half hour to go.
Yes, because I need something else to binge watch, and I've run out of...
And a job?
Yeah.
Yeah. Yes.
But it's true. It's about having a whole diverse range of stories, of different experiences that are reflected on the screen. And one of the things that you said in that report, well, in that clip there, about how women writers in film, their films earn more money.
Better.
And it was just like when Empire was on FX and everyone was like, oh my God, this drama with all these black people, that's really popular. And then, Black Panther's like, oh, it's really popular. And Get Out makes like, I don't know, $100 million in, I don't know, a week or something. And it's interesting how the financial benefits of opening out the palette more to different voices, different experiences, and reflecting that, there's a commercial imperative that can come back. I think that's...
Do you feel like it's a battle with fact? It was interesting that obviously there's a lot of Sally Wainwrights writing there, and so there should be, because if they just dedicated a channel to her, that'd be absolutely fine with me. But it feels like over and over again we have to fight the battle. So Sally writes something, everyone goes, oh, women are interesting, aren't they? Yes, here's some pictures with women in, and then Sally has to write another thing to remind us. I'm going to say something very bitchy now. I'm surprised there wasn't a Fleabag clip on there. I hope that one day all women writers are famous enough that when they say in an interview, I think I might write a film, it's headline news as it was earlier this week. But that constant, we've broken through, but actually it's just one writer. I think a lot of writers are finding that quite frustrating, and
that's why that line that stayed at the same level for 10 years, because it was Linda LaPlante from before,
Kay
Mellor.
I don't think it is just one writer, though. I do think Sally's been very prominent, and quite rightly, and that's brilliant. But I, having worked with her, have a lot of people more female writers come to us now saying, oh, we've seen Happy Valley, we've seen this, here's our script, and then we have the material that we can then give that to commissioners and give that to broadcasters. And I do think it's really important to keep emphasising there's never been, and I've been doing this for 20 years, there's never been a moment where someone said we don't want female voices. There's never been a commissioner who hasn't said we are open to female writers or who's doing something about it. So I think you're right as well when someone said about confidence. I do think we should look at what the fact would be interesting to know how many submissions there are from female writers compared to male writers, and if there's something we can do to encourage women at an earlier age and at a younger level to say writing's a job and you can be a writer and this is how you're a writer, so that the material's coming up to us. Because I just think it's really... I don't believe, but I mean, you're a writer, you've got a different experience. I don't believe there's people up there saying no female writers, no female voices. Yeah. I do think that most people will go for the best script that they're given and the best project they're given.
So one of the things, sorry, leaping in here, one of the things that I sort of uncovered when I was doing my extensive research was that a lot of producers would say to me, but I don't know many female writers. So for comedy entertainment example, most producers could probably name about 5 females that they'd have in the writing room. And they say there aren't many, or acknowledge that there are, but I don't know how to find them. So one of the things I did immediately was to create a database of female writers. And we've got over 500 on there, and that is for scripted and non-scripted. But also at our Comedy 50/50 events, we have sort of enforced networking. So I make producers have 3 10-minute meetings with writers, just to kind of start the conversation, really. And we've done it recently for unrepresented writers with agents as well. And I think it is just broadening that whole network. And it's quite hard, I think, for a writer to do that on their own and to even, get the producer to respond, because producers are busy people as well, and it just helps having that sort of that introduction, I think, made for you.
Do you think agents have something that came back to the Guild from some people in the know, some commissioners, was I'm looking at, he specifically looked at my agent and said, well, there's not a 50-50 split at your agency. Do you think agents need to be braver in signing up not just female talent, but BAME talent and writers with disabilities, etc., and not see them as a risk?
We've recently, because our last event was a focus on agents. I've had a lot of agents come up to me and sort of say, I've been looking at my client list and I'm really aware that actually it's a very narrow focus. So I think, it sometimes just takes it to be pointed out to you, doesn't it? Like your report, that was a big wake-up call, and I think most people were not surprised, and yet, we hadn't really done anything about it. So I do think sometimes it isn't necessarily a sort of willful ignoring, but just, you're carrying on with 3 billion things, and suddenly, you need something brought to your attention to actually act on it.
And then you do make changes. So that's why thank you for doing that report. It makes a massive difference. And we'd sit there and then suddenly, and we will not look at a list that doesn't have women, or Philippa and I have just made a programme written by a woman, 6 hours written by a woman, where we made sure we had a female director list. It's across the board, really. Yeah. And we tried to make every department reflect that, not because we didn't want men on it, and there was, in the end, you end up with probably, again, 60-40 women, you don't end up with 100% women. But it's just being made, just being prodded to think about things, I think, really helps. Because you're desperately trying to get commissions, and you're desperately trying to get work, and you're answering to business people. There's a lot of pressure, but it takes outside people to say stop and look at what you're doing and make sure your behaviour is helping the situation.
And once you do that, you sort of, once you do that, you keep doing it.
Yeah, you do keep doing it, always.
And so it becomes a habit, so that your point of view shifts, and that you by degree, if you are commissioning more scripts by women, so you're over-commissioning that area, then you kind of then see what you're working with, and it should become second nature.
I'm going to give the last word, because we'll open it out to questions. I've got a couple of questions on the iPad, but I am going to give the last word to the writers. What do you think we can do better to put ourselves out there?
Okay, well, as a writer, I'm show running my next show, which I'm not going to say much about, but it pisses me off when producers say they can't find female writers, because we've got so many to choose from. We've got like a top list and then another list and another list, and you just have to phone up an agent and ask them. Surprise, surprise. There are loads of female writers in this room, probably. There's one in my house as well. Like, my housemate's a writer. It's like, including me.
You get rent killing for that,
I think you just have to, we have to keep writing our stories and keep pushing and don't give up, because it is soul destroying. I remember just like thinking, am I a writer? I was scared to say I was a writer for years when I was a writer, and looking back, I want to go back and shake myself and say, you are a writer, you're writing a script, you're doing more than a lot of people do, which is like finish a script and send it off. I think we just need to keep writing and keep fighting, and don't wait for people to give you permission. And I think, we just need to keep fighting and write stories about women, because I feel like, I want to hear different stories from men. I want to hear what's the word? Confessional stories from men. I feel like we've seen like thrillers and police dramas. I want to hear that from them, and I want to see like thrillers from women, and moving into the genre stuff, science fiction.
I think it's just transparency. I want to know why it's not got through the door. I want to know why it hasn't moved beyond that point, and why it hasn't moved beyond the point after that, and exactly why. It's not going to offend me if, it's like, Dorset don't like it, or whatever, whatever it might be. It's just like it's just not palatable. I know, it's just not palatable, or whatever it is. Just tell me, and I'll deal with it. But as long as I know what the reality is, and it's important to know, being a creative and being a writer and being in my own head most of the time, I think it is important to have an awareness of and awareness of the architecture and the infrastructure that I work in above me, and so I'd like just total transparency about where my script is at what stage, and yeah.
I think the tip I'd give writers in the room is there's no stupid questions. Don't sit there biting your tongue thinking, I don't understand what was meant by this, I don't understand how it all works. Just ask, because people love talking about their jobs and the sound of their own voices, so you'll be absolutely fine.